What's going on, guys? It's your boy, White Poe Brian here, and I'm doing this a little bit different, right? I'm talking now in front of you with a video, which prior to my other videos or my previous videos, you guys were just seeing the gameplay with some commentary, and I don't know, man. I was just thinking to myself, my last video was titled "Be Seen or Be Ignored." And I've been thinking about just this a lot of the internet culture being resided on this anonymous figure where what you say, I want to say, doesn't have any merit, but it's so hard to take somebody seriously when I can't identify who they are with them saying it. And obviously, I know all you guys that comment, behind like a picture or whatever are real people. I'm trying to say more so just generally people who have a message or are trying to put themselves out there. I don't know. I feel like if you choose to be a person that wants to do that, that's fine. But I feel like I can connect with an audience and people can connect with me if they see me human being to human being. We're still at this point where we would like to see one another, I would think. I don't think it's more so from a perspective of like, I don't know, how would you say, like COVID time era where people are just talking behind a screen. I just realized too that, I'm talking to the camera, but I'm also just looking straight at the screen. And then if I look up at the camera, I'm like looking at you guys, and it's a little weird. So I'm trying to see what works there too. So if it looks awkward in this video, next one I'll be able to look back and adjust this accordingly. But anyways, I was just thinking about a lot of the things in my last video, be seen or be ignored. And I don't know. I was just kind of presuming, I went yesterday to a networking event at work, and I really didn't want to go to work. I was like super sore from the leg day or the work I had done the day prior. I really like have been trying to maximize my sleep more, and I've been just very routine. And I was just like, man, I already went last week 2 days in a row, and I'm gonna go early on Tuesday or earlier in the week on Tuesday and just kind of be there. Nah, man, I'd rather not. But I got up early. I went to the office, did the thing, and showed up at the event. And it's not even an event that's like predicated to what I want to do. It's just an event that's just there for a different industry or whatever. So I showed up, man. I talked to so many people. I just introduced myself. I was kind of just showing my face around. These are people that are in the office a lot, and I don't know. When I think about why people maybe so hesitant, or maybe not hesitant is the right word, but like scared to like reach out in a sense. I think of it like everybody thinks that they are like not their, like you have to prove themselves to be their friend. I started realizing, like, I assume that people are my friend first, and unless they give me a reason why I shouldn't be their friend, that's when things kind of change. And that approach has like, I don't know, like it's kind of just recircuited my line of thinking in that regard. And honestly, how I talk to anybody, like the philosophy of, you talk to a janitor the same way you talk to a CEO. I always think about that, right? And I'm not perfect. I'm sure there's been times where I've judged people like crazy. I'm a judging person, I think. But in general, I think that like anybody judges, but you try to understand that there are different people for a reason, right? Like you can't expect everybody to be on your program. You can't expect everybody to be the same, and that, or even a similar frame of thinking, right? Even amongst men, amongst women, amongst anybody really, you just can't have that expectation. And it allows you just to hold this sense of calm and peacefulness over your life that otherwise would just get destroyed, right? I As I get older, right, a part of that is honestly just realizing that as you get older, you become a lot more comfortable with who you are and what you have to offer to the world. And that only comes with experience, right? And I'm only 28. I think about this a lot because it's like if you guys are like, let's say you're 21 you think back when you're 18, you're like, man, I didn't know anything at 18. Now at 21, I know everything. I know, like, you get more used to understanding even that feeling. Now I'm 28, like, I don't know what I'm going to know by like 30, 32. My perspective on things might be like totally different. They may evolve, just my ideas and concepts and whatnot. And I just been thinking about that a lot more. I've been a lot more hungrier, I think, in the last couple months of this year, and transformatively, so have a lot of my friends. And I think that they have influence in my decisions over that, but also just the place in the settings that I put myself, the people that I'm around. I see people attaining things, and not necessarily because I want them, but because I'm in a competitive state. Like, I want to beat people, but I also want to empower people to be better, because that only is going to make me better. Like, if any of you guys have watched Dragon Ball Z, you know Goku is this way. He wants to always fight the strongest people because he always wants to be. He knows that that is the only way that he's going to get stronger. He gives Cell the freaking Senzu Bean because he doesn't want to make it a layup for Gohan to just destroy Cell, because he knows that in order for Gohan to eventually be the protector of the future world, right? He has to be at his most peak, devastating, potential power in order for him to really annihilate any kind of adversary or foreign enemy that may come in his position or his way. And if you really think about it, that's kind of why I love the story of Dragon Ball, because there's so many moments, and not so much now, right? Like, it's a little bit like you're just riding off the nostalgia, but Dragon Ball Z, so many moments where, it's like childlike. Goku's the most childlike adult ever, right? And people love him for that. When it's time to get serious, he's serious, and he's serious about getting stronger. He's serious about protecting the ones that he loves. He's serious about his family and eating and food, the most basic things in life. And it just kind of comes full circle, right? And I don't know if this was Toriyama's idea or if he purposely made the story this way, but it's kind of funny, right? Like, they say art imitates life and stuff, and you think about why an author would create a story of this magnitude in this way. But anyways, I guess my point is that as I get older, I realize how much freeing it is to, like, just be in a childlike state, like Goku, or and just in that sense, like, it's funny because I tell a lot of people, like, I was telling actually one of my friends, he's a younger guy, and it wasn't just me, but it was a couple other guys in there. We were kind of just telling him, we were like, dude, you're 21, you're about to be 21, whatever, and you got to be more serious about what you want. Like, there's this thing in life that you got to know when it's time to joke around and when it's time to it's like a constant back and forth, like you're swinging around. But if you just stay locked and tight, you get so stern, you get so achy, you get so fragile on whatever side of the pendulum that you're swinging. And you have to understand when it's time to, like, let go of the gas and time to push the gas. And sometimes even when to step on the brakes or just tap them, pump your brakes. Like, it's kind of like you're learning how to drive through life. And, you're not really sure what the rules of the road are. And it's like, okay, now that I got the rules of the road, I understand what rules to bend. I even understand what rules to break, right? But you understand the consequences of breaking rules at that extent. But when you're younger, you're just kind of like, you don't even, bro, you just want to drive so bad that anytime you get behind the wheel, that's all you care about. You don't really think too much about it. But then you get to the point where you start thinking about, oh, what if I turn now? And if I turn left, do I turn too hard? Do I turn too wide? Or do I get in the next, like, I just think that there's so much of and that's another thing, man. There's so much, like, I was off of TikTok for like 4 or 5 months, on Instagram for 4 or 5 months, I break up, get out of a relationship, and I'm on these apps again, and I'm like, and I feel like it's because I have the more of a freedom to just have that time and just kind of, I don't know, like, just, now just kind of have that, because the other time I would be spending with my partner, like, I kind of thought, okay, well, if I'm spending week by week, hour by hour on this can be time that I can spend in my own relationship. So that's kind of how I process, but now that I'm not in that, it's just a little different. So dude, there's so much opinions and thoughts and people telling you to live your life this way, and this is the reason, and this is the answer, and you should do these things this way. And all the politics ones. Oh my God, everybody's a freaking genius when it comes to everything. You realize how the fragile human mind clings to like the biases of information and how like that really affects the messages of everything, including this one in of itself, right? But I think that in my perspective of I just have this like, you know what, man? It's so much. And I just like, you get like your brain just feels sick. Like you're not sick because you're in a bad mood because of the negative content sometimes. I feel like you're so sick because you're so fed so much information. You don't even know what to do with it. And you're just kind of like, oh, like, so what is the answer? And you're constantly engaged. Okay, what is the next best answer? What is the next best answer? Oh, I need to know. Like you're subtly looking for something that you're not like. And then at a certain point, you're like, let me get the hell off of this. Like, and that's what happens. I feel like I feel like I'm speaking for a lot of people when I realize that's what happens. Whether it be Reels or TikTok or Instagram, and a lot of people would allude Instagram to like a dating app, and I think so. Like, I think that it definitely. I think I was looking at a stat where it was like 50% of people are meeting each other online now, or couples are meeting each other online now. And as a guy, like, dude, God, it infuriates me sometimes, like how much of a crutch people have made this like online presence and online space to be, because it just kind of removes you from your own physical presence of life. But there is a lot of merit to that. Like a lot of women are naturally online, right? A lot of guys are naturally online. So what happens, right? Like you just start having this culture, society that just, how are people meeting they're spending the time in those places. They talk about third places. They're like, oh, third places are gone. I'm like, they're not gone. They're on your fucking phone, right? The phone is the third place now. And so we have to somehow like get in front of that, and so we have to like make a funnel back from the social media apps, I guess, into a real life activity funnel. In the same way, like, a lot of my friends have Discord. That's how we honestly keep up with each other, because through the same mediums that we connect through, we kind of exploit that and make as much of an organic interaction as we possibly can. And I think like what we have to do is trick the way that we like to go on these apps and funnel them into, just acting into more of a social setting. And you see this during advertisements. There's like people that do these like run clubs and groups. That to me is like such an awakening calling, that people are yearning for the sense of like just meeting other people and like wanting to interact, and just like it's not fulfilled enough. It's not enough to just go to work, and especially now people working remotely and then go home, and not everybody has the opportunities to work at like big organizations or companies where there's so many things going on, and they can innuate themselves into different areas of that. So I think about these things now, and I'm like, wow, like how much is really missing out of the lives of people. And I think about myself. I'm trying to do a show pretty soon, in December. And right now, what I'm doing is I'm just recomping. I'm just getting the protein, and I'm loving the data tracking. I'm getting autistic as fuck, yes, but I love it because it's so simple to me that I'm like, dude, I'm like a grunt. I think most men are like this, and it bugs me to see how complicated people make their lives. We're soldiers, like our ancestors are survived something great, right? Most often than not, unless they were scurrying away, but even that is a survival skill. So, most of us like the grunt work, like the, pick up this, do that. We like direction. We like that, but we have to trick our minds into, how do we give our own directions in that way? How do we become grunts within our own minds? And there's certain things, like for me, when it comes to working out, I like to have a program given to me by somebody else. Like, I like to be a soldier, and the drill sergeant or my leader is telling me, you need to do this because we need you to get stronger. And I think that like as I get older, that drill sergeant, that person becomes more of like that person or that entity, that figure is God to me. That's that entity. And the calling for me in this. It's not so much like it's not like a vanity, like of course there are perks and there are pluses to that, and I acknowledge it. I've been in that kind of like posting and for the kind of attention seeking in a sense, you got muscles for the first time, you trying to show off to those girls that are going to the gym and all that stuff, and it's cool, right? Especially when it's reciprocated. That's a good feeling. Like, damn, you feel like that guy. But I realize it's kind of, like if most of you guys have watched Spider-Man, like, do you want to use the powers that you have for good, or do you want to use the powers that you have for the betterment of mankind, right? And one of Peter's professors, he tells him that he's like, Dr. Octopus, he's like, you don't use your intelligence in this example for selfishness. You use it for the betterment of mankind. And, Peter, he's like, really listens to that. And I think a lot of us find ourselves in Peter because naturally, everybody kind of feels inundated by society. And, most people can relate to bullying in that aspect, or being an ugly duckling. I definitely had that. And I think that's why lifting calls out a lot to me, because that temporary endorphin feelings makes me feel like I'm progressing. And of course, you got the strength and the muscles in there. And that, I think that when you have that positive feedback from something that was removing you from the old ways of how people will perceive you, you get kind of even addicted to that. And I'm kind of realizing that there's even a deeper meaning, like, if I can have guys that are maybe stuck in that space, or guys that are maybe, I don't want to say stuck, but just in that moment of their lives, and just be that power of influence to be like, yes, what you're doing is good, but you could use your powers even better to influence those, bring guys up, because whether it be lifting or whatever, dude, I got smacked here, whether it be lifting or whatever, I think the whole point, the whole goal is to become stronger men, because there's a lot of evil out there, guys. There's so much evil, and nothing bothers evil people knowing that good people are out there and they're just as strong as them, and they can do just as much as evil as them, and they choose not to. Like, I feel like it just pisses bad people off all the time, because they're like, why do you choose to do the things that you can do? You can be like me, and you're choosing not to. It frustrates the hell out of them, right? And that's just the reason why, because they know that, dude, this teammate on my right did not help for shit. That bothered me so much. He gets beat up there. Anyways, but that bothers them to like a grand level. And yeah, I think about that. I'm like, who am I really serving when I do these things? Like, what does this all become for? Like, yeah, it becomes for my benefit of like this, that, and the third. But am I serving it for myself, or am I serving it ultimately because I feel like there is like when I go to sleep at night and when I lay my head on my pillow, like I'm like, I have to keep doing this. I have to do this. Like, that's that feeling that I think I yearn for, because it's not because of my own central being, but I think it's just because of God. And I know some of you may not be spiritual, and that's okay. I'm not trying to shove anything. I'm just trying to share with you my thought process on that whole accord. But no, seriously, that's kind of give you guys a little bit of peace of my mind, how I've been thinking about that, at least recently. I think that I've always said this before, confident people, enlist confidence in others, unconfident people enlist unconfidence in others. And that, even with unconfident people around me, I try not to take things personally. You have to realize, bro, people project a lot. People are constantly projecting, especially in a negative sense. Like when I talk negatively, I even realize that, like, damn, I'm low-key projecting right now. I'm not going to say that in the moment, but, I know that. And I realize that, and I call myself out on it in my own psyche. And, I kind of think of things better. And this just kind of leads me to think, and for whatever reason, a lot of ideas, a lot of things are popping up in my mind. But, one thing that I've always considered in that aspect of things, as I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more, I don't want to say, like empathetic. Like I have more of an understanding, like, that sucks, bro. That like I I'm not so hard rock about everything. I'm not so much like, yeah, life sucks. Go pick up a damn dumbbell, idiot. Like sure, like sometimes that is the answer, and sometimes you gotta be direct with people and tell them that. But also, I try to come from a place of understanding and like relating to people because, dude, not everybody understands things the way that you do from the time period that you are. And I think that a lot of us forget that when we were younger, sometimes we were just as lost and we were just as influenced and moved by certain things because we had to go through things to not to just understand them at this point, right? And my point there was like, you know, I've been in relationships where I've been that guy that didn't care and like, whatever, and like all the girl was like super into me. And then I think in my like last relationship, I was that guy that like I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be that guy to somebody else, but I also understood like I had boundaries and they were hard and strong. And I think my partner respected me for that, but I think that at some point I kind of got lost in that a little bit. And not too much. Like I didn't lose the plot too much, I don't think, in that. But I think what ended up happening was that, a lot of guys say, oh, don't ever be vulnerable to women. Don't be vulnerable. And it's like like it's not about not being vulnerable, right? Like no girl wants to see their man like fall apart. And if a woman does ever see you fall apart and she loves you, you better never let go of that woman, because let me tell you something. The reason why there are a lot of women that I think feel that way is because they are they don't know how to emotionally regulate themselves, and they become emotional vampires to you, right? Once they see that there's a guy that can emotionally regulate themselves and also regulate you when time needs to be, it's like they stop doing it. Like they don't know how to do it anymore, or like they lean on you to do that because you are now that person that can do that. Like you can do everything for them. And I feel like a part of that true vulnerability is not just always picking up the slack. It's like, hey, go, I need you to do this now, right? And like having that conviction and having that thought. And the only way you really have that, and this is what anything in life is out of relationships, you just got to be willing to walk away every single time. Like, no, like, even if you be living on the street, you have to, because you understand that like there's a get back. There's a way, like, this won't be forever. This won't be my always or forever or whatever. Like if you got to live in a 1-bedroom shack or whatever, a studio, rent a room, you come back from these things. What I'm trying to say, like and that's just the plight of men. Like you're gonna have ups and downs. Like they say, money comes and goes. Like smiles and frowns, lefts and rights, all that stuff. So yeah, like I know there's been so many different things, but I feel like my mind is just kind of going. I don't know if it's camera or what, but yeah, I think I think that there is a super hard enjoyment. I think that's the reason why I like a lot of the power scaling animes the ways that I do, is because what they enable is a sense of satisfaction for things that require consistency day in and day out. There's nothing that's like, sure, sometimes the transformation is instant, but is it really an instant thing when time's elapsed and the character's gone through like several different not transformations but just challenges and obstacles? And god, man, any anime with a training arc is like, but that's realistic, right? Like Berserk has a training, not Berserk, Baki has a training arc where he's just eating food and training and lifting and climbing and running, and then he's sleeping. And Dragon Ball has the same thing where him and Goku and Krillin are just training. They're eating, they're sleeping, they're resting, they're sleeping, because Master Roshi's like, you need to sleep just as hard as you work. And there's a message in that you do need to rest and recover as much as you work. God, I just love that. I feel like that's what I'm called to do, because that's the natural inspiration of others that I feel like I can bring to the world, where like you have some kind of talents, a combination thereof of your personality, whether it be by the things that you like or interested in, that give you that pursuit of trying to show other people that thing, right? Like to me, that's so like, that's what kind of now is the invigorating feeling, you know. If I can inspire that into other people and then essentially like free themselves out of their own, I want to say suffering. I feel like there's no real way to escape suffering because that's also the enablement, the driver. But the problem, like the suffering of wondering why they're suffering, you know. I think that just like that to me is just such a non-problem. Like there's like you're just not gonna be able to escape that, you know. Find something to suffer from and find something that, you know, can also reinvigorate and pour into you just as much as you pour into it, is what I'm trying to say. So guys, I rambled a lot. If you have never have watched Dragon Ball, you should watch it, man. I think that the characters and the way that they're drawn now, it's a little bit more from its time period. There's a lot more raunchiness, for better or for worse. And then Dragon Ball Z, you know, the characters look built, they look strong, they are weak at certain points and they physically get stronger. You see throughout the series too. Goku gets stronger throughout the series as he trains harder and he goes through certain obstacles, and he's not like built like he is in Super and whatnot. So yeah, guys, check it out if you haven't, especially if you've never seen an anime before. But I'll leave that there, you know. Guys, thank you for watching this video to the end if you have. Like if you like, don't if you don't. This is White O'Brien signing off. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.